What's next for the Washington Wizards? We're going to be doing an offseason preview for this team in this video here today. And the main point is that they have several options or several directions they could go moving forward. And a lot of it is going to be determined in the next 6 to 8 months. Most notably, what is going to happen with Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook moving forward. Of course, Bradley Beal has expressed his loyalty in Washington, re-signed an extension when no one thought he would. But now is getting to a point where he might want to go into a team that can actually be a contender as he continues to struggle on this Washington Wizards team. But Washington can also try and buckle down, try and bring him back, try and bring Russell Westbrook back, as both of these guys now have 1 year left on their deal with a player option the following year. Westbrook is quite possibly going to opt into that. Bradley Beal will most likely opt out of that to either get a pay raise or want to leave. And so it is very, very possible, unless Beal is the most loyal person ever, that we will see Bradley Beal be traded in the next 6 to 8 months so that Washington don't just lose him for nothing, because Bradley Beal is way too good to lose for nothing. And so we're going to be talking about the possibility of a Bradley Beal trade this summer, as well as who they have as their young core coming up in behind Bradley Beal to help the growth of this team moving forward as they move into what is most likely going to be a new era of Washington Wizards basketball. And so let's talk about that. Let's get right into it. They only have one pick this year, which is the 15th overall pick. They should hopefully be able to get a fine player there for their continued development. It's probably not going to be some starter, but hopefully they can get some decent role or bench player out of it. And that's just the extent of it. They don't have any second round picks. It just is what it is. Hopefully they can get someone good with the 15th pick. The biggest thing for them this offseason is going to be, what can they get back for Bradley Beal? They need a very good package for him. He is one of the best players in the league. Top 15, top 20 guy for sure. As far as his ability to score the ball, he's one of the best perimeter scorers in the league. He's had to carry the load in Washington for a few years now. And I think if he can take a step back, not have to always be the number one guy, be more of a co-star, a co-number one or number two on a team, it'd be absolutely perfect for him if he can get in the right role. And so if I'm Washington, of course picks are great, but you also want a core player in this. You don't want it to be a James Harden trade scenario where you get Victor Oladipo who leaves and a bunch of first-round picks, because I think there seems to be this narrative this summer where you can trade 4 first-round picks and a couple of role players and get a star player, but that's not how it works. If Washington are trading away Bradley Beal, you don't just want 4 first-round picks and then 2 role players on expiring contracts that are big deals to match salaries. If you're Washington, you need to be getting a key player in return. You needed someone like a Karis LeVert, Jared Allen type that Houston could have had in the James Harden trade and then, of course, traded away. But you need that type of package. You need some good young or younger players that you can start to continue to build your team around, that you know is there. They're actual NBA players that already you've seen their quality in the NBA. Because picks are great and they allow some flexibility via the draft or via trade. But picks only go so far as acquiring actual NBA talent, because at the end of the day, the draft is always going to be a bit of a crapshoot unless you're one of the top picks in the draft. And anyone trading for Bradley Beal is probably not going to be giving you that high of first-round picks, at least not for the next few years. So you need to be able to get some players back. Whoever that is, you need to, if you're making a trade for Bradley Beal, you need to get some quality of player back. For example, if the Knicks are making a trade, whether that be for Dame, whether that be for Bradley Beal, RJ Barrett has to be involved. There's no Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin, and 3 or 4 first-round picks trades that are going to work specifically for Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal to a lesser extent as well. Realistically, because I think that they just demand more value. And so Washington ensuring that they can get a quality player that can impact their team now and can fit the timeline better and help build towards the future is something that's going to be very important for them this summer. No doubt. That's the most important piece of their offseason, is what they do with the Bradley Beal trade. I'm not going to be talking about hypothetical Bradley Beal trades in this video. That might be left for a later date. But the point is, Washington need to do very well with the Bradley Beal trade this summer and get some good assets back, or whenever they do trade him before the trade deadline. If they don't trade him, fire the front office. Just fire the front office. You need to get something back for the best player for the Washington Wizards in the last decade, other than John Wall when he was healthy. And even then, you could argue Beal's been better than at that point. That's debatable. Point is, Bradley Beal's been one of the best Washington Wizards in the last decade, and they need to get good value for him before he most likely walks in free agency next summer. Moving on to that, if Bradley Beal does get moved, Russell Westbrook only has a year left on his deal, and then another year on a player option. Now, he'll possibly opt into that just due to the sheer salary of it. He's not going to get that much salary on the open market unless he just wants to opt out and play for a contender. But depending on what the market value is for him via the trade market, it's possible he gets dealt as well this summer. Now, for the Wizards, if they have to give up assets to get rid of him, they're probably just going to keep him for the next few years, eat the salary, so be it, unless the lack of salary cap space really impedes the development. But I don't think they're going to be on that fast track of a timeline back up to being a real legit threat in the East. They're going to be overly concerned about his salary. And so I don't think they're going to package up assets to get rid of him. I think they'll just let him sit on the roster. But if they can do a Russell Westbrook trade where they can do a trade that doesn't completely mean they have to get rid of a ton of assets and is actually somewhat beneficial to them, then Russell Westbrook, I would expect, would also be traded before next season's NBA trade deadline. Alongside that, the third guy I would expect to get dealt, Davis Bertans. Davis Bertans got signed to an extension last summer, and I think it's pretty clear that most people in the NBA already recognize that as a severe overpay, specifically people within the Washington Wizards organization as well. He still has 4 years left on his deal, but the fourth year of that deal is not guaranteed. He's getting 16, 17, and 16 million per season throughout the next 4 years. That is a large sum of money for someone who is not that great defensively, isn't overly mobile defensively anymore either. His defense, as mentioned, his rebounding isn't that great. And his ability to shoot the three really dripped off this year as well. Not that it was terrible, but he was very inconsistent. It was at a much lower level than it was the year before. He went from shooting 42.4% from deep, making 3.7 a game, to 39.5% from deep, making 3 per game. And when you were a three-point shooting specialist, that is your specialty, and you're not really doing much more than that. You need to be hitting your shots at a consistent rate. He just wasn't doing that. We're talking about a guy who's power forward, 6'10". He's averaging 2.9 rebounds per game. He's not a rebounder. He's not a defender. He's not that good at putting it on the floor. He is a shooter, and that he was not as good as you would have liked him to be this year. Maybe he comes back and starts to light it up again, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him be dealt to a team that potentially wants some floor spacing, someone who wants some floor spacing on a contender in this upcoming offseason. And so those are going to be the centerpieces of Washington's offseason. They're going to have to try and get some more good young players, future draft picks, out of some potential Davis Bertans, Bradley Beal, and more unlikely but possible Russell Westbrook trades. That's what I would suggest they do. Let me know what you thinking down in the comment section with regards to what you would do with this Washington Wizards team with regarding to the 3 highest paid players this summer. But that's what I would look to do. But now moving forward to what they already have on the roster as far as their future. Thomas Bryant should be back from his injury this upcoming season, and that's going to cause a really interesting scenario in the front court. Robin Lopez, of course, was very good at moments at the end of last season, but he is a free agent. He is 33. I don't suspect he'll come back. Alex Len was also brought in as a free agent last year. I don't suspect he will come back, but they still have Daniel Gafford and Thomas Bryant, who are 22 and 23 respectively. Thomas Bryant only has 1 year left on his rookie deal. Daniel Gafford has 2. So they're going to have to start making some decisions about these guys soon, but they're both going to be on the roster. Gafford, you could play at the 4 alongside Bryant, and Bryant can space the floor for you on offense, and maybe that's something they'll explore. But naturally, they probably are both best at the center position. Daniel Gafford is the much better defensive one. Thomas Bryant is much more of the offensive one and the floor spacer. So it's going to be interesting to see which way they go. They're going to have to get both of them in some minutes throughout the next throughout the season. See who they like, evaluate the talent. Naturally, the more defensive-oriented center looks like the better center more often than not, and is more impactful for winning unless you're just absolutely elite on the offensive end. And so it'll be interesting to see how well Thomas Bryant comes back from injury. If Russell Westbrook gets dealt, how Daniel Gafford looks without Russell Westbrook, as Westbrook has been known to make centers look good in the past, as well as Chris Paul's done the same, Kyle Lowry, all these types of things from these good playmaking point guards. And so it remains to be seen how it'll go. But Thomas Bryant was averaging over 14 points a game last year before he went down. He was shooting the 3 ball at a respectable rate. And so it will be interesting to see how he returns. The biggest thing for him is defense. His defense is still very bad. And if he can't improve that, then Gafford's probably going to be the man. But the Wizards are going to have to evaluate their center talent next season. The other young players they're going to have to look forward to on this team that they're going to have to start building around is Rui Hachimura and Denny Avdia. Both of these guys have 2 and 3 years left on their deal, respectively, before they have to worry about giving them an extension. So they have a nice bit of time to develop, evaluate their talent, see what they think. I think both of them have some good talent. I think Avdia got used in some questionable roles last year. I think he kind of just got thrown in the corner and used as a shooter, and he's more than that. And there was moments where he got some starts. He got a bit more touches on the ball where he was used as more than that. And I think he still has some potential to grow. He just needs some more time, some more development, an actual full training camp, and some more touches on the ball. As far as Rui Hachimura, I think he has good potential as well for them at the power forward. He can shoot the ball well. Can be a decent floor spacer. The three-point shooting still has to improve a bit, but I think he has the potential to do so. We saw a nice leap in efficiency from him from year 1 to year 2 as far as his three-point shooting goes. So hopefully that can continue to develop, and he can be a solid piece for them moving forward. And the only other things to note for them this offseason is their expiring contract / free agents. And there's no one really of note here. It's a bunch of older guys for the most part, with the exception of Isaac Bonga, that they probably won't be overly interested in retaining, as they're probably looking to mainly keep some young guys in the team. They might bring a couple of these guys back for depth, but Robin Lopez and Alex Line, as I mentioned, centers, they don't need centers. They have Thomas Bryant and Daniel Gafford as it is. I don't expect they will come back. Ish Smith, he may bring back as a backup point guard if Ish Smith is interested in returning, especially if they do make a trade with Westbrook and or Beal. Then they're going to need some guard depth in the backcourt. Ruel Neto is another one where they might just bring him back for guard depth. Isaac Bonga is only 21, so if he has interest in returning to Washington, then it's definitely possible that he gets brought back. But he didn't play significant minutes for the team. He didn't do anything crazy for them, and it's definitely possible that they let him walk as well. But they may just take another shot on a young talent as they just continue to acquire young talent. Moving forward, the only other piece that they have to deal with this summer is Garrison Matthews, who did play some good minutes for them and some significant minutes for them down the stretch. He was on a nice little two-way contract last year, and he came up pretty early on in the season. He played well. He shot the ball fairly well, and he shows that he can be a decently productive member for this team. Still very young in his NBA career, although he is at the age of nearly 25 now. But I think he still has some room to develop, and it's probably someone they'll look to bring back heading into next season, especially with a likely departure of Bradley Beal at some point in time this season. They're going to need some more pieces in depth at that shooting guard position, and so Garrison Matthews will probably be someone they look to bring back. But the fact of the matter is their depth is thin as far as their future. They have the two centers, Hachimura, Avdia, and Garrison Matthews. They don't really have a true guard or point guard in there, and so that might be something that they look to acquire in this offseason via the draft, or look to acquire via a Bradley Beal trade. But they definitely need some more acquisition. They have some good pieces here, but they don't have any key star pieces. And so that's what they're going to be looking to acquire via the draft in the next few years, as they potentially make some trades and fall lower into the standings and get a higher pick. Or what they will try and get back via a Bradley Beal trade. With that being said, that is my thoughts on what the Washington Wizards should do this upcoming offseason. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comment section down below. If you guys enjoyed the video, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.